So welcome back here. All right, so I saved this as version 2. So I'm going to post these files for you guys. I can't emphasize enough that I'm launching my video series. You definitely have to take advantage of it. Go to thinklearnearn.com. There's a link there to purchase my time-tested CS6. This is something I've been working on for the past 6 months. I'm a beta tester for Adobe, so I can't share all the details until Adobe launches the software. Once they launch the software, 5 days later, I'm going to be launching my new video tutorials. It's $109. It's worth every single penny. If you're not one of the first 220 people to sign up for my new tutorial system, the price is going to be over $300. Okay, so I still think that's a bargain. All right, so let's get started with this. Now, I created this grid in Adobe Illustrator. Now, I'm going to publish a tutorial on how I created this grid, but I'm going to publish this grid to a server that you can download. So the way that this grid is set up is each smaller square represents 60 pixels. The margin is 20 pixels. So each section here is 80 pixels, all right? From top to bottom here, let me show you a little trick here. I bring up my rulers, Command Option R. Command Option R for Macintosh, Control Option R for Windows. Now, what I want to be able to do here is I just want to share with you some of the measurements of this particular grid. So I'm going to take a guide and I'm going to put it roughly at 64 pixels. Now, the reason I said roughly, because if I'm not exactly at 64 pixels, I can simply just double click this. I can click right here, double click, and type in 64. So therefore, I know I'm exactly at 64. Now, a little production technique, Command semicolon hides the guides, shows the guides, hides the guides, shows the guides. Command semicolon, Windows up your Control semicolon. All right, now why is that important? Because if I have a guide there, I can hold down my Command key, and that's going to tell me the distance between point A and point B. Right? So let's do some simple math here. The way I have this grid set up from left to right, each section is 80 pixels. Right? From top to bottom, each section is 64. Now, where did I come up with the height for this? Because a live viewable area for a web page before the fold is approximately 630, 640 pixels. So therefore, if you go down 10 squares, 10 times 64 is 640. So 640 is above the fold. What do I mean by that? That's before the web page has to be scrolled. So you should keep your important and pertinent information for your clients above the fold, just like a New York Times newspaper above the fold. The important news stories go above the fold, so that's called the fold. So it's approximately 640, 650 pixels on most people's computers down. You then have to start scrolling. So I set up this grid system, top to bottom, so you can just count down 10 sections or 640 pixels. Now, distance between here and here is what? So that's 64. Okay, 64 minus 20 is 44. So if I double click here and I put in 44 pixels, that section right here is 44 pixels, which means that half the grid here, is 22 pixels. So if you want to go half down, it's 22 pixels. 22 and 22 is 44. 44 plus 20 is 64. 64 times 10, you get this. You get the understanding here. So it's really that simple. Okay. Now, even though this page was set up for HTML5 elements, I just want to keep this simple here. We're just going to build some div tags, some simple div tags, so you understand how the grid system works. Okay. Now, depending on the color of your site, you could choose. I have another version of this. This version is going to stay here. This is a repeated background. This grid is basically just this section in here, and then it repeats down because it's inside of the wrapper tag. So I have it repeating by default vertically, top and bottom. Now, I also have different versions of this grid that you can use as a tracing image. The advantage of a tracing image is we can turn the tracing image on and off. Okay. So how do we set up our grid? First of all, let's set up our basic div tags using my time-tested proven method here. Okay, let's go to the code for a second because I want to make sure that these paragraphs are not here. I don't want to have these paragraphs here. It's going to screw the system up. I'm going to delete these paragraphs. Okay. Now, if you're really nice, I will have this starter page available as a download for free that you can just put into your starter page and use yourself. So I just want to get rid of those paragraphs right there. I just want this to be straight text. Then I'm going to select the text. In order to affect the text, I'm going to select the text, and I'm going to type in the name of my div tags, similar to a lot of previous videos we've done. So we're going to type in branding, spacebar. That's going to be followed by site nav, spacebar. That's going to be followed by main content, spacebar. That's going to be followed by news bar. Notice I'm camel casing this. Spacebar, that's going to be followed by footer. Okay, now, everything so far is in the wrapper tag, because the wrapper tag was part of our starter file here. Now, for those of you that don't know how to make a wrapper tag, you would select your body tag, you select the entire content, come up here to the layout tab, and the first icon right here is insert div tag. That's how you build your wrapper tag. Now, important step here again, I'm working in classic mode. Classic mode is much simpler, it's less confusing, it's squeezing the sponge on Dreamweaver. Then I'm working in layout mode. Layout mode is better than common mode. Common mode, you have to count over to get your div tags. Well, why do you want to do that? Okay, div tag insertion's right here. But in layout mode, it's the first icon. Keep it simple. Okay, now let's create the div tags. Now, before I create the rules, I'm just going to simply create the tags, the div tags. I'm going to surround each one of these words inside of a separate div tag. So how do I do that? Well, if you're a big fan of using software the correct way, and Dreamweaver is no exception to that, we're going to simply copy and paste. We're going to not go to the code like every other video does. That's what makes my videos valuable. Okay, that's what makes my videos extremely valuable, because I share my years and years and years of doing this. And quite frankly, in the beginning when I first started doing Adobe software, did I pull out my hair at 2 o'clock in the morning? Absolutely. Back in 1987, 88, there was nobody to ask about that back then. I had a better chance of getting Ronald Reagan on the phone. When I first started out doing this, Ronald Reagan was president. I had a better chance of getting him on the phone than contacting Adobe for help. Okay, so I feel your pain. For every time you're frustrated about doing something, I feel your pain. Okay, I'm here to help you. I share my time-tested techniques. If there's a quicker, faster way to do something in any Adobe product, After Effects, Acrobat, Illustrator, Photoshop, Premiere, Dreamweaver, I'm the guy. I know how to do it the better way. Techniques won't find anyplace else. I can assure it. I can assure you nobody uses this technique I'm about to share with you if you haven't seen this technique already. I'm going to copy branding. Now, rule number 1 is to double click because I don't have to select. I have that selected. I'm going to copy. I'm going to come up here, insert div tag, and what am I going to call it? I'm going to call it what I just copied. Paste. Why do I want to reinvent the wheel? Okay, I have a computer. I don't want to reinvent the wheel. Now, if you're wondering why this is white, I did white so I can see it a little better. So I'm going to share with you a technique here. What I've done here in my CSS rules is I set up that when a div is inside of a div, make the div white. Now, this is a very powerful production technique. Now, again, generically, let's understand what I've done here. I set up a rule, and this is part of my starter page, that when a div is inside of a div, I simply want to make the background color white, or blue, or green, or whatever color I pick. Nothing else is applied to this rule. I just want to make it white so I can see it, or some kind of neutral color. Okay? Now, I don't have to do that for each tag because every tag is inside of a div tag. So let's understand this philosophy. It's not affecting the wrapper tag because a wrapper tag is a div tag by itself. But in this particular case, I created a rule for when a div is inside of a div. It's going to follow these rules. So as an example, I can say when a div is inside of a div, make it float to the left. When a div is inside of a div, give it 20 pixels of padding. I don't want to do that, but I could do that. Okay, so let's continue. Okay, let's hide these guides for a second. Command semicolon, control semicolon hides the guides. Okay, double click site nav. Copy, Command C, Control C. Now at this point, guys, if you don't know how to copy and paste, you should not be watching my videos. If you have a problem with copying and pasting with a keyboard shortcut, which is Command C, Command V, not P, V, or Control C, then you know what? You need to go back and learn how to copy and paste. This video is not for you. Okay, copy and paste that. Okay, double click, make content, copy, come up here, and paste. Simple, simple, simple. Why am I copying and pasting? Because I already typed it. Why do I want to type it again? On top of that, I'm not a very good typist, so I could make a typo. I don't want to make typos because that makes for an unhappy client. Copy, paste, etc., etc., etc. See, I can actually, excuse me, I can actually do this and chew gum. I can actually do this as I'm explaining it to you. Okay, so I can actually explain it to you as I'm copying and pasting. Because I'm a copy and paste fool. I'm a copy and paste stud. If there's a simple way to do it, I want to know how to do it. Copy and paste. Okay, so I have my 5 div tags. Okay, 5 div tags. Branding div tag, site nav div tag, etc., etc. Now, here's what we want to do here. Unlike some previous videos we've done, we want the branding tag to take up space to the left. We want the navigation to be right to the right of that. So how big, using the 960 grid system. Now another thing I'm going to share with you in my premium CS6 videos is a total breakdown of the golden grid rule. So do a Google search on the golden ratio. It's a 16.812 ratio grid. Do a Google search for this. It's how everything is built, from Colosseums to the pyramids. It uses the golden ratio rule. I'm going to share with you how to use the golden ratio rule to have perfect developed websites that are going to be eye-catching, easy to read, etc., etc. This is going to be for iPads, iPhones. Yes, I do websites. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's continue here. So I want to make my branding tag. So let's make a rule. Select the tag, just like our previous videos here. Select the tag, bottom left-hand corner. Select the tag and make a rule. Okay, now let's roll up our sleeves. Now, if you're not wearing sleeves, that's okay too. Now, let's roll up our sleeves and get to work. So branding tag. Now, let's think about this. Let's create a rule for the branding tag. I've decided that my branding tag category box category, I want to take up 1/3 of the grid. Okay, so if you look down here for a second, I want to take up 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces. Okay, 4 spaces at 80 pixels. I want to take up 4 spaces of 80 pixels. So I can literally do this. Each one of these grid spaces, including, so it's 60 plus 20, and 60 plus 20, and 60 plus 20, and 60 plus 20. I want my branding tag to come up right up to here. Since I have a grid, I can do that. So how do I do that? How do I figure out how much space it is? Well, guess what? Dreamweaver does the math for you. It's simply 80 times 4. Simple, simple, simple. Or 8 times 4, which is 320. Now, 320 just happens to be the size of an iPhone app. So this will be fluid if I decide to break this down, okay? And basically make a fluid design using CSS mobile app device so I can make it smaller. So it's just a little bit planning ahead here, okay? Now, pay close attention to this. I don't want my branding tag smashing up against the tag here. I don't want my text smashing with the text. I'm going to give this 10 pixels of padding. So if I give it 10 pixels of padding, it's no longer 320 pixels now, is it? No. I want to keep it at that 320 pixels. So what do I need to do to these numbers? I need to minus. Now I'm not going to change the height of this. I do want minus 20. Minus 20. That's going to give me back to 320. Because the padding add it to the bill. I don't want to add to the bill. I want to subtract to the bill. So if you look at your grid here, you're back to that same 320. Okay, 320. Now the height, there's nothing to take away from the height because you can't take nothing away from nothing. So this is perfect, pure math. This is genius science. This is my own technique using the Dreamweaver software. Dreamweaver will do the work for you. You just have to know how to do it. And that's where I come in. I teach you how to use the software the right way. Stay away from code. You don't have to touch the code. Just use the Dreamweaver interface. Learn how to think Dreamweaver. Once you start thinking the way Dreamweaver works, it's a total cakewalk. I build six-figure websites without touching code. Now, do I know how to write code? Of course I know how to write code. How do you think I had to do it back in 94, 95, 93? JavaScript code now I have to write. jQuery code. But there's so many WYSIWYG, click here, click there. Why do I want to? I have friends that say, well, I'm a purist. I write my own code. Good for you. Good for you. Well, I'm on the beach relaxing. You're still trying to figure it out and get it done. I'm using a multi-million-dollar production tool called Adobe Dreamweaver to solve my problems. I don't have to write code. All right, so enough of that. Okay, so to the right of this, and just to the right of this, we want to do 20 pixels to the right. Where am I going to get 20 pixels from? Right here. Now, if I hit the apply option, it's going to pull out 20 extra pixels. There's actually 20 pixel margin space in here. So I need to minus 20 pixels. So if I add 20 pixels, so it's well, you can put a 10-foot table in a 9-foot room. It doesn't work that way. Either the room gets bigger or the table gets smaller. In this particular case, I minus the 20 pixels from the width. So this is 320 pixels wide still. It's 320 wide plus 20 on the left and right plus 20 left and the right. So if you say 20 and 20 plus 280 is 320. So there you go. And we're going to float this to the left because we can, because we're that kind of guy. We're that kind of person. Okay, so we floated that to the left. So therefore, that put Mr. Sitenav, or to be politically correct, Ms. Sitenav, to the right of the branding tag. Okay, so how cool is this? So this is the techniques we're going to use to build the fluid grid system using the 960 grid and my proven technique. So let's make a change, save a change. Again, guys, I can't overemphasize enough to do yourself a favor, beg, borrow, steal. Yes, steal. If you have to, no, I'm kidding about this. Well, maybe I'm not kidding. Okay. But you definitely need to take advantage of my new CS6 training tutorials that will launch 5 business days after the Adobe release, which is planned for some time about the 10th or 12th, or I can't say specifically. So let's say mid-May. So basically by the end of May, my videos are going to launch. It's $109. It's the best investment you'll ever make. It's complete A through Z e-commerce, social networking. I'm also going to include my Adobe Illustrator techniques for prototyping and slicing. Bad word around me, but sometimes you can slice. And also Adobe Edge. It's going to be all-inclusive into my $109 video package that's available basically 5 business days after the CS6 Suite launches. In addition to that, plus the big plus is you will get free video tutorial updates for an entire 18 months after the video launches. Plus, you'll get all the source files and all the goodies that come with it. And I'm also going to be sharing my pricing techniques and how to get clients and how to market yourself. It's a full package. It's a full package. You can lean on me for advice with this, okay? I'm here to help you. So for those that think, well, I can get stuff for free, why do I want to spend $100? Well, bullshit on that. You're not going to get the type of training that I'm going to offer. I don't care where you go. You're not going to find these techniques someplace else. You're just not. And if you think you are, then you need to go someplace else and buy, or someplace else and try to figure it out for free. Because I've spent 25 years of my life perfecting my technique. So capitalize on what I do. Capitalize on what I'm sharing for $109. It's a total bargain. So we'll continue in our next video. Go to earn.com. Click on the link for my CSS tutorials. Buy them. Am I asking you to buy them? No, I'm telling you to buy them. If you want to make money with this, if you want to benefit from my tutorials, you need to buy my system. It's that simple. Talk to you soon.